Greetings, my saplings. Alright, so in today's video, we are going to be going over some tips and tricks for copying the Homage to Home Jordan 1s. And as you guys know, when I make these updated guides from my How to Cop guide, I usually will be mentioning some confirmed first come first serves, some raffles and how to get multiple entries into them, and of course just some more updates and additional tips that you might be able to use. Now, in addition to all that, for today's video, at the very end, I know a lot of you guys were wondering about the Jordan 1 Rebels in the women's, that is the top 3s and the Chicago 1s. So at the end of the video, if you're interested in that, don't worry, I'll update you guys on some resale predictions and where you can get your hands on a pair. Alright, but first, let's talk about these Jordan 1 Homage to Home. So just to refresh your memory, these will be releasing on May 19th. So yeah, guys, that is this Saturday. It's right around the corner. Retail on these will be only $160, and no, this release is unfortunately not numbered. However, that's because there's lots of stock, and don't worry, we'll talk about resale at the end of the video too. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to mention is tomorrow, the day after I put this video out, I want to make sure that you guys are on the foot apps at around like 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, because I believe that's when they announce the winners for the apps. If you go into your app for Foot Locker, Foot Action, or even Champs, you should have signed up already. And if you haven't signed up, make sure you follow my Twitter, because I always give out reminders on signing up there. In addition to that, obviously my How to Cop guide, I talked about it. So turn on post notifications if you haven't already. But essentially, if you go into your app and you're already signed up, it will say My Countdowns, and you'll see a little timer, so you'll see exactly when your timer runs out. The reason I say you need to be on your app is because if you happen to win, hypothetically, which there's a lot of stock, so I'm confident that if you guys spent a decent amount of money, you probably can win. If you don't enter that PIN number within an hour, you take an L. Now, obviously, they don't only just tell you if you won or lost them. They can also say that you're waitlisted. And if you're waitlisted, guys, I urge you to just stay near your phone for the rest of that day. But, you know, not everyone takes W's on the foot apps. There's a lot of competition, and that's fair. So don't worry. We're going to be talking about a bunch of first come, first serve releases where you could try at 10 a.m. Eastern Time and at 3 a.m. Eastern Time for worldwide. If you don't happen to be in the USA, yes, you could still get these. And, of course, I will also be mentioning some raffles. But most importantly, before I even get into the raffles, I just want to refresh your memory with the #1 way, in my opinion, to get any type of Jordan or Nike shoe that releases via Foot Locker, Foot Action, or Champs. All you got to do, guys, is camp out. Now, you have to call your local Foot Locker, Foot Action, or Champs to see which way they're doing campouts, because one way they can do it is they could hand out tickets early in the morning. For this, I would advocate getting there before 5 a.m. your time. With the tickets, what you would do is receive the ticket, then you come back to the store before 3 o'clock. Whoever didn't pick up their reserved pairs, those leftovers go to whoever has a ticket. Obviously, if you have #1 for the tickets, you have first choice of all the leftover sizes, and then so on and so forth. But if they don't do it this way, the other way they're going to do it is where they just say, once the mall opens up, you just have to stay lined up outside of a Foot Locker, Foot Action, or Champs, and this is going to happen until 3 o'clock. So if they do it that way, that absolutely sucks. No, you won't have to necessarily get there early, but you're going to have to spend all day there. Okay, so with that out of the way, why don't we talk about some first come, first serves, because I understand not all of you guys want to get up early, not all of you guys want to spend all day at the mall waiting in line, so maybe you just want to wake up at 10 a.m. Eastern Time and just hop online and try to get them manually, and that is completely fair. So first of all, at 3 a.m. Eastern Time, if you guys want to go for these stores will be shipping worldwide if you're interested. First of all, we have the Goodwill out, and in addition to the Goodwill out, we also have a Few store. If you're wondering which one I prefer to go for, I would recommend a Few store just because I've had a lot of success off of there in the past. Just a quick update that I found while I was editing. 43 and Hob is also doing a first come, first serve at 3 a.m. Eastern Time, and as well as them, we also have Asphalt Gold getting them. So, there you go, we got 2 more. Now, moving on to 10 a.m. Eastern Time, I do believe that most of these, if not all of them, are going to be US-only releases, unfortunately. But don't worry, we'll talk about some more raffles that are shipping worldwide in a second. So first of all, we have the Shop Nice Kicks release at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. In my opinion, I do not think that you should waste your time on Shop Nice Kicks, just because it appears that a lot of the time on hyped releases, it will say sold out before they even like show up as an option to buy. I find this really frustrating. I don't know if they're backdooring pairs or if bots just obliterate the site. Personally, in my opinion, I would not try Shop Nice Kicks. Moving on to the next one, we have Jimmy Jazz. Now, Jimmy Jazz, I find that it's a nice setup And what I also find interesting about Jimmy Jazz, they are constantly doing restocks throughout the day on Jordans with a lot of stock. Obviously, these homage to home Jordans do have similar stock to the bread toes, and as we know from the previous bread toe release and even the Game Royal release, they were restocking all day. So just keep your eye on Jimmy Jazz as long as you can. Next up, we have Shoe Palace. Shoe Palace I really like because it doesn't matter if you're a few seconds late or so. The way they have it is you just have to keep trying to add to cart. And you will get a timer that says you have to wait 60 seconds or so until you could try again. Guys, trust me on this one. Just disregard the timer and just keep trying to add to cart. The timer is just a recommendation. Moving on to the next one, we have DTLR. DTLR is another one that I don't recommend trying just because they often crash when they get too much traffic. But of course, if you want to give it a shot, that is completely up to you. You do what you feel is necessary. Moving on to RU Villa. RU Villa, I find that I often get booted off of their site, even if I'm not doing anything wrong. So I wouldn't personally try on RU Villa just because our next option is actually really great. We have Kicks USA releasing them. And what Kicks USA actually does is a queue. And we can use the multiple people jig on this queue. And if you look at the bottom of the screen on Kicks USA, you will see that you have an ID number. And on every single Chrome user, you will see that they have different ID numbers, meaning that Kicks USA is tracking your cookies. But with multiple Chrome users, you have different cookies. Now, if you're like, whoa, 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 what does all this mean, guys? All you got to do is check out this video right here. The jig that I'm referring to is the multiple people jig. We often use it on adidas.com to get Yeezys. So feel free to check out this video if you don't know what I'm talking about at all. So like I said, Kicks USA is definitely one of my favorites for 10 a.m. Eastern time releases. In addition to that, we also have all the foot stores getting them. So this will include Foot Locker, Foot Action, possibly Champs, and I know Eastbay will be getting them as well. Now for these, all you really have to do is just keep spamming the add to cart button. I would suggest signing in, that might help. I haven't noticed any changes, but if you're wondering out of all four of these, which one should you go for? Well, if you really want points on your account to increase your chances of winning shoes through the launch system, obviously you would want to try Foot Locker, Foot Action, or Champs. But if you just want the highest chance of copying online, I would recommend Eastbay. I have had a ton of luck off of Eastbay in the past. Alright, so with all the first come first serve releases out of the way, why don't we talk about some raffles and how you could get multiple entries into them without the algorithm catching you, so you could have the highest chance possible at winning them. But you know, they're raffles and it's all luck based, so even if you have 100 entries, you still might lose, which sucks. So the first raffle we're actually going to be talking about is Sneakers and Stuff, and now Sneakers and Stuff is the only exception for this. I only would recommend entering in once just because I have found that oftentimes when I enter in multiple times, I get cancellations, and I don't exactly know why this is. Sometimes I don't, but I feel like they're not really counting my entries, so just to be safe on SNS, I only do one entry. Moving on to the next raffle, we have the Slam Jam Socialism raffle, and as you guys know if you've watched any of these videos in the past, Slam Jam Socialism is definitely my favorite. The reason I say this, it is so easy to jig. The only info you're going to need for Slam Jam Socialism, first of all, you could put a random name, because once they send you the email saying you won and you have to pay, that's when you have to put your accurate name. For this, you could just put a random name, it doesn't matter. I would advocate changing it up just to be safe. In addition, you can use different emails. What I would personally recommend is using the +1+2 jig. That is essentially where you just add a +1, or it could be a +7, a +53, a +57, whatever number you want right before the @gmail.com. And no, there is no cap to this, so you could potentially just make thousands of entries if you have the time. And basically, the algorithm will see these as different email addresses. However, if you happen to catch a W, all those emails will go to the host account, the main account. In addition, I would recommend using a completely random phone number. I would advocate that it does match the area code of the state that you're in just to be safe. But yeah, there is no verification process. They don't ever send you texts or anything. So just put in a random phone number. And of course, you would want to pick an accurate size, the size you're going for. You don't have to change that up. The accurate city, and of course, you also want to put your accurate country. And if you happen to have any trouble throughout this, now I personally made a ton of entries already and I haven't had any trouble, all you should try is just clearing your cookies, simple as that. So yeah, whenever you guys have free time, say you're eating lunch or whatever, you have your phone, feel free to just make some extra entries on Slam Jam Socialism just to eat up some free time and increase your chances all day. Moving on to the next raffle, we have the Foot District raffle. And now for Foot District, you're actually going to have to make an account, and they're going to want all this type of info that we just mentioned for Slam Jam on the account. So like I mentioned, do all the same things that we just talked about. However, when they ask for your address, all you got to do is change up the last word. For instance, if it's street, you could put ST. You could put ST dot. It's just got to have different characters. You could even spell it wrong. And if you really want to take it up a notch, if you happen to live in a house, you can't do this if you live in an apartment, unfortunately. But if you live in a house, all you got to do is on address line 2, just fill in like 1B or 1A each time, make it different. So it appears like it's a different apartment building, and the algorithm then won't catch that they're the same address. And finally, for Foot District, you will need an Instagram account. I don't recommend making fake accounts. I would just suggest having a friend follow them and putting in your friend's account. Simple as that. Finally, as our last raffle, and all of my links for these raffles, if I happen to potentially find any more, also, they're all going to be on my Twitter, which is KeithAdam10. So this last raffle is going to be the end clothing raffle. You will have to make separate accounts, just like on Foot District. So you're going to want to use all the methods that I just previously mentioned. However, the only difference is you're going to unfortunately need payment methods. And yes, they are all going to have to be different payment methods. So perhaps feel free to borrow your wife's PayPal, your wife's credit card. Maybe you use your mother and father's credit card and just pay them back or something. Or what you could also do is check out privacy.com. I'm thinking of making a full video on that in the future, just because that's a very safe way to actually make multiple credit cards. And again, if you have any trouble on end clothing or any of these raffles, just clear your cookies. It's as simple as that. So with all that out of the way, all the updates, all the tips and tricks, all the raffles, and the first come first serves, let me just briefly update you on my resale predictions. So right now, I am holding them. I'm going to say that they're going to end up looking somewhat around what the bread toes are looking like now, just because it's very, very similar demand, and it's also a little lower stock, just barely lower. So I do think that there is potential that some of these sizes might actually sell for more than the bread toes. However, I'm expecting these to actually dip to the low 200s before the release, so don't get scared, guys. But right after the release, I am expecting them to increase a substantial amount, just as the bread toes did. Now, finally, like I did promise you guys, I did want to update you guys on those women's Rebel 1s in the Chicago colorway and the top 3 colorway. So regarding resale for these, I do think that if you buy big sizes, for big sizes, I would recommend 9 and up, maybe potentially even 10 and up. I think that there is a lot of potential for profit in those sizes, considering retail is only $145. So if you're wondering how to get these shoes, so far the only way I've found to get them is for the Chicago ones. You can try on the Foot Locker app. It's in a very select few locations, so you might not have it near you. More importantly, also for the Chicagos, we also have them releasing on Nike sneakers. And oh yeah, I forgot. For the homage to homes, yes, they are going to be on Nike sneakers at 10 a.m. Eastern time. I don't know why I forgot to mention that, but yeah, they are going to be on the Nike sneakers app and website for the US at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Now for the EU release, it is not yet confirmed. They haven't even confirmed the date, unfortunately. But if you guys see that it pops up on your calendar, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. And finally, for the Chicago 1 Rebels, you can also sign up on the Slam Jam Socialism website, because they're doing a raffle for them too, and like I previously mentioned, how to jig it, do it the same exact way. Moving on to the top 3s, there's actually a separate store list for them, so obviously, yes, they are going to be releasing on Nike sneakers. In addition to that, we have them releasing on SNS, Soulbox, BSTN, Overkill, Titolo, all at 3 a.m. Eastern time. My personal favorite is Soulbox, just because it's a queue and you can use the multiple people jig on there. But feel free to go for whatever one you like. I also like sneakers and stuff as a first come first serve. But with that, I'm going to wrap up the video. Good luck on this release, guys. Feel free to leave a like if you enjoyed or if you perhaps learned a thing or two. Make sure you subscribe if you're new and turn on post notifications so you stay updated on all these hyped releases. But with that, I am out of here. Have a fantastic rest of your day.
Get your foot off my foot, ah. Get your foot off my foot, yeah. I should have run the other way. Now there's just one thing to say. Get your foot off my foot, ah.